Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Therapy and a Soft Life. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Asia and I'm your host, and thank you so much for tuning in. This podcast has been something I've been thinking about for a while now, and I'm glad to have the platform to share pieces of myself. Not just the therapist side of me, but also the everyday me who is navigating life and all that comes with it. My hope is that every time you tune in, it feels like you're sitting down with a friend who just happens to be a therapist. Think of me as someone who's figuring things out right alongside you. So today's episode is really just an introduction. I want to tell you a little bit about me, why I decided to start this podcast, and what you can expect from future episodes. So I want to take you back a little bit because I think it's important for you to know where my passion for mental health started. I grew up watching my grandma work in the mental health field. She worked with kids, and I remember listening to her stories about her job. Most of her stories were crazy and entertaining, I will say, but I took note of how she poured into those kids and how she really gave them love and patience and how her work seemed to really impact their lives. As a little girl, I didn't know it at the time, but those stories really planted something deep inside me. I feel like my grandma modeled what it looked like to dedicate yourself to helping others, even when the work was hard. And hearing her talk about the realities of kids who struggle opened my eyes early to the fact that everyone carries something. Everyone has a story, and sometimes what they need most is someone to sit with them and remind them that they matter. On top of that, I've always felt this pull and sense of purpose that I was meant to help others. Even when I wasn't sure what career I wanted, I knew I wanted to make people feel seen, safe, and supported. That's what eventually led me to pursue counseling as a career. Now, of course, the journey wasn't easy. I initially started in the human resources field, but I wasn't passionate about it. I went that direction because I had a lot of people in my ear telling me what direction I should go in if I wanted to make X amount of money. After doing that for about a year and a half, I decided to go back to the drawing board to see what it was that I truly wanted. By this point, I had stopped working in HR and began working inpatient as a mental health tech at a psych hospital. That job is what made me feel like I was truly making an impact in people's lives. After a few months of working there, I went on a whim and decided to look at grad school counseling programs. I knew I wanted something online and something that could work around my work schedule. In my search, I came across Regent University's counseling program. Then I came across Grand Canyon University's clinical mental health counseling program. After I did a bit more research, I decided to apply to both programs. I forgot why I wasn't too sold on Regent's program, but I did know that I loved GCU's program. What I loved most about their program was the flexibility that the program offered. Also, the fact that I was contacted by an academic advisor from the school who intentionally went out of his way to get to know me and give me detailed information about the school and program before I fully committed to making a decision. So, of course, I ultimately decided to proceed with GCU's program. Looking back, my only grievance was how long the program was. Because I was in school part-time, I was taking one 8-week course at a time. So a standard 2-year program averaged around 3 to 4 years for me. So with that being said, for the people who are looking to get into a counseling program, I'd advise taking maybe 2 classes at a time if you have time in your schedule so that you can finish faster. Because my program was the longest program of my life. Outside of that, I truly enjoyed my grad school experience. I won't lie and say that it wasn't intense at times. The practicum and internship process is what tested me the most, I feel. In the 10 months of my field experience, I went through like 3 different sites before finding the one that was a good fit for me. That's not typical, but my situation was a little unique. I didn't enjoy my practicum site and I wasn't doing counseling there, so it led me to find another site once my course ended. Then, when I first started the first part of my internship, I really enjoyed the site that I had joined. I feel like I met a lot of great clinicians and was able to bond with them and the other interns. But that site didn't work out because they made the announcement that they were shutting down their business. So I had to find a new site mid-course, which was very stressful. Do not recommend. I ended up finding another site to finish the first part of my internship, and I personally didn't feel like they were a good fit for me either. I knew that I didn't want to stay there for the second part of my internship, but by this point, I felt so defeated and was ready to just settle where I was, even though I didn't enjoy it. But I told myself that I wasn't going to spend 4 more months stuck somewhere that I wasn't happy. So I started reaching out to sites in the area again to see if any of them were taking summer interns. A lot of sites weren't, but I did come across a few who were interested in interviewing with me. Long story short, I interviewed at a site that I really enjoyed and they called me in for a second interview, which led me to securing my final internship site. Like the site that had closed, I really enjoyed this place as well, and I actually had the opportunity to practice counseling and put into action everything that I've learned in my program. I also really appreciated the fact that I had a bit of independence, but there were times where I questioned myself or struggled with imposter syndrome or worried I wasn't enough or doing a good job. But every time I sat with a client, I was reminded of why I was there and what my purpose was. All in all, I really enjoyed that site and I'm actually continuing my residency with them. So I think that tells you just how much I really enjoy working with them. But I say all that to say that, sometimes plan A doesn't work out. Sometimes maybe even plan B doesn't work out. And it may take you a few tries to figure out what works best for you and what's a good fit for you. But don't give up. It's okay. So now I want to shift gears and discuss why mental health matters to me. I'm very passionate about mental health because I've seen what happens when it's ignored. I've seen how people suffer quietly and how stigma keeps people from asking for help. A lot of time, like when people talk about mental health, there's like this negative connotation behind it. And I think recently it's gotten better, but in the Black community, I know that when you talk about mental health, people associate that with like, being psychotic or crazy, rather than everyday struggles like, being depressed or having anxiety, etc. Um, and a lot of times people in the Black community don't want to talk about mental health because it makes them feel isolated and alone. So that's a big part of why mental health is important for me. I've seen how people get treated when mental health is discussed, and I don't like that. It's not cute. I also know firsthand how mental health is in my own life. I've had to practice what I preach, like setting boundaries, managing stress, working through self doubt, and finding ways to balance being a therapist while also being a human. The biggest theme in my journey to become a therapist is self care. And it took a while for me to figure out what self care means to me and how I can incorporate it into my daily life to keep myself grounded while still showing up for others. So, one thing that I learned in my grad school program and something that they really push down our throats is self care. Self care, self care, self care. And I will say that, now being a therapist, I understand why self care is so important because it's easy to get so caught up in other people's problems that you neglect yourself. So, self care, I can't stress it enough. Please practice self care, and we'll get more into that as the episodes go on. But speaking of self care, I think that's also the reason why I love the idea of the soft life. For me, the soft life is about choosing peace. It's about slowing down enough to really live instead of rushing through life on autopilot, which I will admit that's something I'm very guilty of if I don't catch it in time. I also feel like the soft life is about creating room for joy and boundaries and rest and healing. And I truly believe mental health is at the heart of all of that. So now I want to get into why I started this podcast. Like I said before, this is something that I've been trying to get started for a while now. I just haven't taken the steps to put it all into motion yet. But I'm glad that I'm starting this process because I feel like I have a lot to say about a lot. So, with that being said, I just want to let y'all know like this podcast comes from the desire to merge all of these pieces of myself together, the therapist side of me, the lifestyle side, and the part of me that's still learning and growing all in one place. I wanted to create a safe space for conversations we don't always get to have. Sometimes mental health content can feel too clinical and lifestyle content can feel too surface level. I wanted to blend the two so we can talk about therapy in a way that's approachable and talk about lifestyle in a way that actually supports healing and balance. And that's like the biggest things in my life right now is healing and balance. I also wanted to show the human side of being a therapist. I don't have it all figured out and I don't pretend to. I definitely won't pretend to have it figured out on this podcast either. I'm on this journey with you, learning, unlearning, growing, and becoming. And that's really essentially what therapy in a soft life is all about. So here's what you can expect on this podcast. The first thing is therapy and mental health, of course. That's including how therapy works, why it matters, and how it can support you even when you're not in crisis. The second thing is lifestyle and soft life practices, and that includes daily rituals, routines, and habits that support your peace and help you feel more grounded. The next thing is relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about like boundaries, friendships, communication, and navigating connections in a healthy way. And lastly, personal growth, which I feel like is having honest conversations about becoming, healing, and figuring life out, even when it's messy. Some episodes will be me sharing stories and lessons from my journey. Other times, I would love to bring in guests, other therapists, and maybe even people close to me to share their perspectives on mental health and what soft life is to them. My hope is that each episode leaves you with something to reflect on, something to apply, or even just a little encouragement to keep going. So that's a little bit about me, why I'm so passionate about mental health, and what inspired me to start therapy in the soft life. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for being here at the very beginning of this journey. My hope is that this podcast feels like a breath of fresh air to you, or a safe, soft space to land when life feels heavy, and a place to be inspired when you're ready to grow. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you would like to connect more, you can find me on Instagram at Therapy in the Soft Life Pod. I'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the conversation there. This is just the beginning, and I'm so excited for what's ahead. Welcome to Therapy in a Soft Life. Let's heal, grow, and live softly together. Talk soon.